terms of our own readiness and preparedness, but even more importantly than that, to speak to some of the concerns that have arisen around the conduct of the electoral management body, the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. It's our duty as the citizens to ensure that we hold ZEC to account, to ensure the safe custody of the voters' roll, to ensure that voter registration is carried out sincerely and there's protection of the vote, and also to continue the fight for electoral reform. Now, before I get into the meat and bones of today's presser, I'd like to thank the citizens. The last few weeks have seen an unprecedented by-election campaign carried out by the citizens. People have come out in their masses to hear the message of change. We have trolloped across the four corners of the country. We visited every single province to share the message of hope and inspiration as we move towards installing a citizens' government in 2023. Thank you so much for the bumper crowds. Thank you so much for your feedback. And thank you so much for overwhelmingly embracing the yellow movement. Now, I wish to say on that note that every citizen who has a by-election in their ward and their constituency has to come out. We have to vote in full force tomorrow. So nothing that we're going to raise today is to say don't go and vote. We have to come out and vote in full force. The only way we can win Zimbabwe for change as the citizens is if we come out in our millions to vote. That is the only way we can assure a constitutional change in government. Now, our change champion-in-chief, President Chamisa, has said time and again that the citizens' movement was born out of the realization that Zimbabweans are desperate for a new way of doing politics. And so the central goal of this movement is to ensure that in 2023, this is our current central objective, in 2023, we secure 6 million votes in the presidential election, a 2/3 majority in parliament, and clean sweeps in the local authority elections. Now, in order to get there, we've got the dry run that we're faced with tomorrow. President Chamisa has said, and this has been reiterated in a number of our meetings and our messaging, that the purpose of the by-election is to conduct a test run to assess how much work we as the citizens need to do to ensure that we meet our goal of 6 million votes in 2023 and to secure victory and a transfer of power for the people, and also to measure the readiness of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Are they ready to meet the constitutionality test, the integrity test, the neutrality test, the legality test, to ensure that we don't have another disputed election in 2023 that will lead to yet another illegitimate regime? I think as citizens, we've all seen the fruits of an illegitimate government. It's poverty, it's injustice, it's hunger, it's corruption, and that needs to change. Now, even as we embark on tomorrow's vote, we want to emphasize a few things. The electoral reform agenda is the core business of the citizens in 2022. This was highlighted by the president when he articulated his citizen agenda for change, Citizens Action for Change agenda for 2022. And so we continue to make the following demands. ZEC has to act constitutionally, lawfully, neutrally, with integrity, or it must be disbanded. The continued refusal by ZEC to account for gross irregularities in the voters' roll, the conduct towards our polling agents, which is going to be dealt with in detail by our elections directorate, the intimidation of voters in rural areas, all of that simply has to stop. Section 155 of the Constitution empowers the citizens to speak out and complain against the irregular conduct of the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, and we expect, in accordance with the Constitution, that those complaints be taken seriously. As we come towards the vote tomorrow, we demand respect for the right to vote, The right to vote has to be facilitated at the polling station. We don't want any illegal conduct at polling stations. We've received reports already of threats being made by certain traditional leaders who are acting unlawfully and in a partisan manner. We've heard threats of intimidation, people being threatened that they won't get food aid in certain constituencies, especially the rural ones. We've heard reports that names are going to be taken down of people who voted. All of that simply has to stop. There has to be security of the vote and the voter. Now, yesterday we managed to conduct our last campaign, but we've seen a worrying trend as ZANU-PF continues to abuse the police service to do its bidding. We don't want any partisan conduct on the part of state institutions, including the police and the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission. Now, we demand a credible results management system. We've already raised a number of concerns around the polling material, the lack of transparency around how it was purchased, even the failure to consult stakeholders in terms of the final setup of that ballot paper. Now, ZEC, we wrote to them concerning the question of the color on the ballot paper. Now, in terms of the laws, the elections directorate is going to say, we have a duty to tell ZEC what the description of our symbol is. And we told them that the description included the color yellow. But for reasons known to themselves, that was disregarded and we've got a blurred ballot paper. We expected those issues to be dealt with by means of consultation as required in terms of our constitution. In any event, this is the 21st century. How can you have black and white ballot papers? I come briefly to the question of media reform. We've seen again a worrying trend on the part of state media, especially the Herald and the Zimbabwe Broadcasting Corporation, who continue to report on our conduct and our electoral preparation and our campaigns and our rallies in a partisan manner. They are flighting campaign material on behalf of ZANU-PF, and the same space is not being given to the CCC, notwithstanding several complaints in that regard being made. On the question of violence, we have reiterated time and again that we are a peace-loving movement. We call for peace at tomorrow's by-election. In fact, just a few days ago, we had a national peace prayer. The citizens prayed for peace and healing in this country. We want that same spirit to continue. We call upon everybody, especially our colleagues in ZANU-PF, to desist from the culture of violence. Everybody should be safe tomorrow. There must be an atmosphere of peace. Nobody should be harassed or intimidated as they go to vote. Now, just to let the citizens know the state of our preparedness is the CCC, we've set up a war room which comprises the communications department, our legal department, and the elections directorate. And we have a system where we are receiving reports from every single ward and every single constituency in terms of their own readiness and any irregularities that they're observing. And we've got a process whereby we evaluate that complaint and then make a decision as to whether it should be escalated by writing directly to the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission, whether it's something that should be taken up with the multi-party liaison committee, whether it's something that should be raised with the presiding officer concerned, or whether it's something that's going to form the basis of a legal challenge. I'm pleased to let you know that our legal team did meet today and our legal strategy is in place. Obviously, because these are matters that are sub judice and of a somewhat strategic nature, I'm not going to go into them in too much detail at this point, but please be rest assured that our legal team, led by Mr. Agency Gumbo, is looking into all our legal remedies available in terms of the Electoral Act and the Constitution to ensure that work is done. Our Elections Directorate, which is headed up by Councillor Ian Makone, who is running around coordinating polling agents as we speak, and his deputy, Ms. Ellen Shiriedenga. They're working round the clock as well to ensure that polling agents are deployed in every single one of the wards and constituencies where there'll be a by-election tomorrow. So without further ado, what I'm going to do now is defer proceedings to the Elections Directorate so that they can summarize some of the irregularities and the trends that we're seeing, especially the concerns that we have with the Zimbabwe Electoral Commission that is, as I've indicated, conducting itself in a manner that we say is unconstitutional, non-partisan, and really doesn't meet the test that's set out in the Constitution, which requires that there be a transparent, verifiable, vote as we march into the by-election. Before I do that, I emphasize again, let's all vote in our masses tomorrow. Make sure you find out which polling station you're to go to. If the queues are long, please, let's wait for them. Let's all remember our obligation to defend that vote. Don't leave the polling station until you know that everything is secure. We have a collective duty as the citizens to ensure that we win Zimbabwe for change. I defer now to the Elections Directorate.
Thank you so much, Afati. Good afternoon, everyone. My submission mainly will focus on the technical issues with regards to our electoral processes that we are faced with. Firstly, there's the aspect of the voters' roll. Of course, I won't dwell much into it because it's one issue which is under legal proceedings. But what we have done so far, as some of you might be aware, on Monday we engagement with ZEC, and the voters' roll issue was also came up. We were asking ZEC to say, ZEC, which voters' roll are you going to use on the day of election? Because the voters' roll that we analyzed together with Pacheli, there were certain discrepancies, and that voters' roll also was were given to our candidates upon their nomination. So when we spoke to ZEC, they said, okay, we'll come back to you. They wrote back to us same day for the first time because they've never been responding on time. We got their response to say the voters' roll that will be used on the day of election will be the one that will be given to candidates. And today they also tweeted to that effect. Yes, of course, that is the issue. But for us as the CCC, we're mainly worried because there were discrepancies that we noted there. So what we are saying is that ZEC, by its own admission, you've indicated that the voters' roll that is currently in place is for discrepancies and it's not accurate. And as we speak right now, because one of the issues that we raised with respect to our analysis was the fact that people moved from various polling stations where they've been voting in the previous election. For example, I've just been talking to Adi, or as I was coming here, he was in Epworth. We've got quite a number of people that have been moved, and they don't know where their names are as we speak. So that is the trend throughout the country. To say, ZEC, but some people were even moved from their own, from their own constituencies to other constituencies. And remember, we are operating under a delimitation, delimitation boundaries that were set in 2008. So what it means is that ZEC has gone beyond those boundaries. So those are some of the discrepancies that we noted. And clearly, by his own admission, like you're saying, ZEC has admitted they have given us a defective voters' roll. And this is why, as the CCC, we're demanding to know which voters' roll are we going to use. And there's also the recurring issue of our polling stations. As some of you might be aware, the law is clear to say that, before anything is done, before any changes are done to the polling stations, there has to be consultations with the political parties that are contesting. And after that, those polling stations should be gazetted. But that was not done. This is why we are currently faced with a lot of chaos. For example, I can give you an incident here in Harare, Ward 41, where our candidate, councillor there, they said, there's a traditional polling station, open space tent in 10 North. It has always been there. And according to the, to the distribution list of ballot papers, that polling station is there. But only to be told yesterday that no, that polling station does not exist. But then we have 1,300 people that are registered there. So what is going to happen to those people? They've removed that polling station, but yet, according to the ZEC records, even the voters' roll that ZEC actually gave us, that polling station exists. So that is one issue that is in place. And even here in Harare, also Ward 7, you know, at Councillor Botora's place, same thing. We have polling stations that have been removed. We have polling stations that have been added everywhere throughout the country. Even in Kwekwe Central, we speak of the same as well. So those are the challenges that we're talking about. To say, you know, ZEC consult people, consult the stakeholders. Those are issues that can be discussed at multi-party liaison committees, but they were never discussed. With respect to that, there's the issue of the ballot printing as well. It is unfortunate that the ballot papers have been printed in accordance to those, you know, polling stations that have been set up by SEC. And these are some of the challenges that we are facing. We never discuss those issues. You know, this is why we have instances, for example, our candidate from Fakose, her photograph in the ballot paper was defaced. You can hardly recognize it, but ZEC has already printed. What does it take to sit down with stakeholders to say, okay, fine, this is the specimen ballot paper. What do you say? What if there are errors, spelling errors, you know, for the candidates? So those are some of the issues to say, ZEC, you need to consult. And also, with regards to the aspect of polling stations as well, going back to the polling station, we have an issue to say in Kwekwe, for example, we have a polling station that has always been at a shopping center. But for some reason, it has been moved to a bushy area. But are there people that reside in bushes? And we all know how volatile Kwekwe is. And even the Electoral Act is clear when it comes to, you know, to the location of polling stations. To say that the polling station should not be located at a place that causes apprehension amongst the voters. And we know of the volatility of Kwekwe Central. And then we go on to set a polling station, you know, somewhere where people cannot access and where there's a lot of risk and fear. So those are some of the issues that we're saying, ZEC, no, you need to consult people. And that should, we are demanding as the CCC that polling station should be moved. Our candidate and also the chief election person and also with our legal people in Kwekwe, they are currently in liaison with the district office, with the ZEC provincial office to make sure that polling station is removed. And also there's the aspect of the COVID regulations. Yes, we understand that there's the fear of COVID and we are all worried. This is why most of you here are wearing masks, which is good. But then we are saying ZEC should have discussed its COVID policy with the stakeholders. Really, it doesn't make any sense for us, for our polling agents, to say on the day when they are supposed to be trained by ZEC, they are only to be told that no, you have to record your details and blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of the day, you hear a ZANU-PF chap in Marondera saying that no, we know you have registered your names and we are going to follow you, we are going to know who you voted for. That is the issue of risk. That is the issue of fear and intimidation that we're talking about. But in the event that ZEC had discussed with stakeholders as a multi-party liaison committees, even at national level, then we would have allayed those fears amongst our people. Would have also put up, you know, stopgap measures to ensure that, you know, the process of registering voters and polling agents would not be violated or will not be taken advantage of to actually, you know, to secure unnecessary political scores. And then lastly, there's the issue of fear and intimidation. I won't say much because Fadi had already spoken about it. We are getting a worrying trend with regards to our polling agents. Particularly, you go to Marondera Central, Marondera East, Murewa South, and also Wenezi South. And where we are having our polling agents, you know, being intimidated to an extent that some will actually withdraw out of fear. And then that culture of fear is going unabated, and no one is controlling that. So we are saying the responsible bodies, please do the right thing. And also as a party, we will assure you that we'll do anything necessary under which is legal and democratic to ensure that we have all our polling agents in place. And also those our polling agents won't be intimidated or anything. They'll do their duties as expected by the law and also as expected by the party, so that they are able to guard the vote of us, the Zimbabwean citizens. So basically, those are some of the key issues that we thought we should highlight. But as the spokesperson said, our purpose here is to say, yes, we have all these problems, but people should go out to vote. We as the CCC, we are using this as a test case for 2023. We are putting our machinery in place, and also we are putting also the ZEC, systems into check, and also the government preparedness with respect to the implementation of electoral reforms, so that at the end of the day, we know what we are faced with when it comes to the 2023 elections. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Ms. Julia Ding. I'm briefly going to give Mr. Agency Gumbo, who heads up our legal department, to just spotlight a few of the issues. Obviously, these matters are sub judice, and there are some legal and ethical issues that arise that preclude us from, saying too much strategically. But Mr. Gumbo, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Spokesperson. Like you said, I will not delve so much into the merits of some of the cases that we already have in motion. But what I will insist on is that an election process consists of 3 stages. There is the pre-election process, or the pre-election phase. There is the during election phase, and then there is the post-election phase. And already as a party, we have witnessed serious irregularities with the pre-election process. And we have not sat on our laurels after we've witnessed this. We have written to ZEC, we have made contact with ZEC, we have highlighted all our contestations with ZEC. ZEC has responded, albeit arrogantly. Hence, we have then decided to take up the matters with the courts of law to ensure that we enforce every citizen's right to a free election, to ensure that we enforce our right to a fair election process. And we must say that the evidence that has been gathered up to now will constitute part of our greater petition, even post the election process, to ensure that come 2023, as has been already alluded to, this is a litmus test. Come 2023, we want to ensure that there is a free and credible electoral process. Otherwise, ZEC must disband. And we are going to pursue this, not just by coming to make noise about it on the public platforms. We are not pursuing this by making political statements, but we're also going to pursue this and ensure that we visit the corridors of legalism to ensure that there is observance of the Constitution and also there's the observance of the rule of law. And that ZEC operates within the parameters of its obligations and parameters of the Constitution and the law. Thank you very much, Madam.
Thank you so much. So I think all that remains is for me to ask whether there are any questions. As usual, just indicate your name, the media house you come from, and then you can ask your question. Yes.
My name is Roger from 360. There are a lot of irregularities when it comes to ZEC in this election. And by you partaking in these elections, are you not endorsing or what ZEC has done or is still to do?
Absolutely not. We have placed it firmly on record that there are huge irregularities. And obviously we endorse a lot of the work that's been done by a lot of citizen groups, a lot of special interest groups, civic society, institutions like Team Pachedu, and other experts that have been involved in the analysis of the voters' roll that we procured when the by-election was called out. The purpose of the by-election for us as CCC is to test the readiness and preparedness, especially of ZEC. So the more data points we can put together, the stronger the citizens will be in 2023. Now we're on our guard. We know that one of the mechanisms that ZEC uses is to twist around polling stations. That's already something that's high on our radar and our risk register as we approach 2023. We're going to continue to insist that we want those polling stations set out clearly. When it comes to training of polling agents, we've had some problems with ZEC. Some of the regulations that are imposed are illegal, but now we're on our guard. Even as far as the irregularities in the voters' roll itself, we are now on our guard. Now, we can't test the system without participating. I want to emphasize that to the citizens. If we don't participate, we won't have a leg to stand on in terms of holding ZEC to account and even implementing some of the legal challenges that we've got in the offing. So please, we have to participate, and we have to participate overwhelmingly. Because the information we get out will be most useful if we've got a lot of it. The more voters that come out, the more information we have to sample and to comb through as we prepare for 2023. So make no mistake, everybody has to come out to vote tomorrow. Our participation in the election is not an endorsement of the unconstitutional conduct and lack of neutrality by state institutions, especially ZEC. No. To the contrary, it's going to create a platform for us to challenge, using the processes and remedies that are available at law and under the Constitution, all these issues. So we want to make sure we have a leg to stand on, Lovejoy. So the question of a boycott is out of the question. It's not even something that we are prepared to entertain. Nobody should be left behind. Even if you've heard that your polling station has been taken down, go to that site, go to Avondale Infant School and stand in your line. We are going to demand that ZEC puts down that tent. Same thing happened in Glenora, the same thing has happened elsewhere. In Mutasa Central, we have the issue of food being weaponized. If we don't participate, how do we know that that's going on? Headmen, we now know the specific headmen that are giving illegal instructions. Someone said, no, come, rang a bell and said, we now know the names of those people. And the only way we've been able to do that is by participating. So participate, we must, and participate, we will. Yes, sir.
Polling stations like Bisha Primary School, Nightfield, and they are good to my constituents. Yes, in my words,
Thank you very much. Isusu chatuda kusimbisa ndechekuti munhu wese ngaabude mangwana ngatibude muhwandu hwedu kunovhota. Hazvina basa kuti zviri kunzi chii, iwewe ingosvika chete papolling station yako yakatarwa ugadzirire kunovhota. Paballot paper zvinganetse kuverenga asi tsvagiridza, tora nguva yako kuti unyatsi kutsvaga kuti triple C ndeupi, unobvisa ZANU-PF unoti aiwa haisi yangu iyi, lead iyi haisi yangu iyi, MDC haisi yangu, wotsvaga petriple C nyangwe pachinetsa kuverenga patsvagei. At the same time, isusu triple C, magweta edu ari pano, elections directorate vari pano, tikutoro matano ekuono kuti zvakafamba sei, especially kumhizha primary school. And kune dzimwe nzvimbo zvakare kwazvakaitika izvozvo. Mutemo unotaura pasection 51 ye-electoral act kuti hautange kuvhurunura maballot paper ma-candidates asipo, hautange kuvhurunura maballot paper ma-agents, ma-polling agents asipo, hautange kuzviita uri wega. Tizvide izvozvo, ndikusimbisa ZEC nema-presiding officers enyu, teedzai mutemo, teedzai kumbiro remutemo. Kune vanhu vari kunzi vakapiwa hupfu nechikafu nezvimwe vachinzi aiwa tichanotarisa. Ndoda kusimbisa kuti your vote is your secret. Hapana munhu anotenderwa kupinda newe polling station uchinovhota. Ramba kuteerwa paunoenda kunovhota. Ramba kunyora pasi zita rako kuti wavhota. Your vote is your secret. Ndo zvinotaura constitution yedu iyoyo. Saka bese masabhuku ese atikunzwa kunana Mutasa nekumwe kwese kwese hazvipo pamutemo izvozvo. Saka isusu kumasupporters edu nevanoteedza triple C, musatye, musapindwe nemweya wekutya. Mangwana ngatibudeni uwandu, maqueue anogona kunge akareba, basi ngatimire izuva rimwe chete. Uye President Chamisa vakataura vachiti, this is the queue to end all queues. At least tikamira mangwana, tinenge takuona kuti takuenda nenzira ipi takanangana ne-2023. Kuita kuti tizoita 6 million votes edu, 2/3 majority in parliament, nema-clean sweeps kuma local authorities. Thank you. Yes.
I am Mtenda Mungu from 263 Times. My question is in regards with ZDC and the era of coverage on CCs.
Yes.
Last time I attended a ZANU-PF press conference and they said that rather than for CC to rely on ZDC and the era of coverage, we can also opt for social media and private media. What's your statement on that? What can you say about that?
Well, first and foremost, ZANU-PF doesn't get to tell us what our rights are and what powers we have in terms of accessing state media. Those issues are provided for in the Constitution. ZANU-PF doesn't get to abrogate constitutional provisions. Now, what does the Constitution say? The Constitution says that we've got the right to fair and equal coverage by state media. ZBC doesn't get to decide and say, we're going to follow Mr. Mnangagwa at St. Mary's, but we're not going to follow President Chamisa in Epworth. They simply don't have that election. Otherwise, they're acting unconstitutionally. Obviously, we'll use state media, we'll use certain other independent media houses, but the core issue is state media is paid for by the taxpayer. We contribute to ZBC's functioning. So ZBC is owned and run by the taxpayer. They don't get to tell us that we can't be covered when the Constitution provides for it. I'll take just 2 more questions because we need to go and get ready for the by-election and coordinate our polling agents. Are there any more questions? Is there a lady who wants to ask? Okay, yes, I'll take that last one. Yes, sir.
Thomas Douglas. I'm going to be regularly briefing election as the election tomorrow.
Absolutely, yes. We are going to be communicating periodically tomorrow. Obviously, the law has certain guidelines around what you can do the day before an election, so we have to be careful about that. We want to remind all citizens that please just wear ordinary clothes. Don't wear any campaign material. Don't wear any regalia. That's not allowed. But we will be updating, especially in as far as keeping a close watch to avoid irregularities. The minute we spot an irregularity, we've got a system in place, and please, citizens, don't be afraid to feed us with information. We've got a verification process. We will speak on this. But what I can guarantee you is that if the election is free and fair, the CCC will have a landslide victory. In a free and fair election, we are guaranteed of victory. And so on that wonderful note, let's all vote tomorrow. Let's come out in our numbers. Thank you very much, members of the press, for covering us, and we will keep you updated tomorrow on all the goings on. Thank you very much.